I'm Nicole. I think it's 12 o'clock, so welcome to our virtual teaching kitchen. I'm Nicole Franklin. I'm joined by Valerie Williams. We are registered dietitians here with American Oncology Network. Today, we are going to be making some overnight oats and some seasonal apple butter to go with it. I'm going to go ahead and start cooking. If y'all have comments, questions, please drop them in the chat box. We're going to go ahead and get started. You ready, Valerie?
Yes, let's get cooking. It sounds delicious.
This is my standby. This is what I make just about every week, and I do it just like I'm going to show y'all. So the first place to start is actually, I think, the container. I think the container is really important. You want a wide mouth, right? So this is wide compared to this here. This one's much smaller. Small like this is pretty, and there's a place for that, but this makes it easy. So start with containers that also have lids. And the reason, if you're prepping this ahead like I do, stacking, right? Take up less space in your fridge. So just a few practical places. And then we're gonna go ahead and kind of assembly line what we need. This is one of my favorite ways to cook because I find it's just really efficient. So I'm gonna do kind of just a basic starting block for overnight oats, and that's a 1:1:1 ratio. 1 part oats, 1 part liquid, 1 part yogurt. Now the recipe that's involved with this doesn't necessarily have the yogurt. So if you don't want it or you don't like yogurt, you can leave it out. I like it, so I'm going to put it in. When I do it, I do plain Greek yogurt. I also have been known to put in vanilla on occasion. It's really just, kind of preference.
Nicole, could you use plant-based yogurts if people don't use dairy foods? Would that work, do you think?
Absolutely. You
Okay.
could use almond, cashew. Another thing, if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum and you're trying to actually gain weight or not continue to lose weight, you could do something like Ensure. Maybe thin it out with a little bit of a water or a plant-based milk or a milk. Today I've got actual just, dairy milk. We're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna assembly line this. So in this container, I've got my measurement here is a 1/4 cup. I think our recipe is a 1/3. Either one will work. So if you do a 1/3, do a 1/3 for it all. If you're doing a 1/4, we're gonna do a 1/4 for everything. So we've got oats in here and in here.
And those will be single serving, Nicole? Those containers?
These are single serving. And I think you could do it bigger if you wanted to. One of the things I thought about was making this ahead of time for house guests, people that are coming in for the holidays, and maybe you know them, but you don't know exactly what they want for on top of their oatmeal. Make yourself a few, make them pretty like this, and just kind of have it ready to go. So when they get up and they're ready, they have a variety of things they can choose.
Oh, that sounds great. I'm coming over, sleepover.
And you know what else? This is I guess my tip of the day, right? So this actually doesn't have any cottage cheese in it. It's empty. But here's what you do. Like, finish your cottage cheese, put it in the dishwasher with the lid, wash it, it's fine. Make your oats in here, and you have a to-go breakfast that you don't have to clean up. It's perfect for camping, or if you're staying somewhere overnight. Like if you're going to a hotel or to a theme park for one night, just go ahead and pack a spoon, and it's easy, quick, and you just throw it away. You don't have to worry about dishes. So anyway, back to our assembly line. I've got my oats. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my yogurt. So again, same measurement. I did a 1/4 there. I'm gonna do a 1/4 here. And again, this is just, this one actually, I think is actually vanilla Greek yogurt.
Getting wild, and Greek yogurt is great for protein. It's one of your higher protein yogurt options, and it has that great thick consistency. You feel like you're eating a dessert with that thick consistency.
Exactly. I appreciate all the variety that they've got out there. Because if you're, kind of going through those taste changes that sometimes people will have a tendency to go through during treatment, change up the yogurt. Don't be afraid to do plain, because it might be that tartness is kind of what you're needing. So again, doing my assembly line right here, it's not really taking me much longer to do one than it does to do two. And so that's why I tend to do it in bulk, all at once. And I might do this twice a week. They'll keep in the fridge for a few days. So from there, I'm gonna just do my milk. Again, same measuring cup, that quarter. And then I've got another quarter. I hope, let's see. So from here, what I do is I stir it with a spoon. There are recipes where you just put a lid on, shake it up. That can work, absolutely. But I find if I actually mix the oats in the liquid, it's a much better consistency when you go to eat it. So our recipe also calls for chia. I like the chia in there. It is a good source of fiber, as are the oats, which is again part of that health benefit that we're getting. I will say that the fiber may not be something that everyone is used to. So if you're making it for other people, you could tend to maybe start slow, work your way up. If it's for you and you haven't tried them before, instead of doing a full tablespoon, you may kind of cut back and say, I'll do a quarter. So this is what the chia seeds look like. I want to show them to you guys. Hope you can see that. They're pretty small, and they're a little bit deceiving in how small they are because they will expand with liquid. So I just do a little sprinkle in each. And as y'all start making this, you'll get the hang. You will not be using measuring spoons forever. You will get the hang of it, and you'll be able to kind of eyeball, about where it is here. And it'll become just a really routine thing for y'all.
Yeah, and chia seeds a little goes a long way. Like you said, they expand and they get kind of gelatinous. So they can really thicken things up. So it's better to start slow for your digestive tract and also for your taste buds and the consistency.
I agree. I don't find that it alters the taste a lot. What do you think, Valerie?
I don't think it alters the taste. I do think that getting used to chia seeds is a little unique. If you haven't had them before, I wouldn't call them fish eggy, but they kind of have a different consistency. But the flavor, I feel like they don't bring a lot of flavor, but they do bring a lot of nutrition. So definitely something to embrace, but slow and steady wins the race on trying chia seeds, in my opinion.
I'm with you. And I think this is a nice vessel to use for that idea. Trying different things, maybe not going overboard when we're trying it, but just trying something to kind of get out there a little bit.
Yeah, and adding new ingredients to things you're familiar with, like oats and yogurt, is a great way because everything else is something that you like, and it's one new addition.
Exactly. So I've got these both stirred up right here. And this is about the extent of the cooking I'm going to do for these oats. So at this point, what you can do is evaluate, how am I going to use these? If it's just for you and you're taking this and you're going somewhere, I would want to go ahead and put my ingredients in. So if this were mine, what I would do is I would take my walnuts, which I have here, and instead of doing like the recipe and putting them on at the very end, I just go ahead and drop them in. They're delicious, they're fine. I just kind of break them up and throw them in here. I've been also known to do the same thing with some dried cranberries, especially, as it gets to be cranberry season. I'll just throw them in there. And I also do a little bit of flax. Same thing with the chia, a little goes a long way. And that's the way I would do it if I were taking it with me to go. Now, if you were going to serve it at home and you didn't know all the preferences that your guest had, I would leave it as is. And then I would let them top, their oats when they're eating them. One thing I do want to show y'all, we talked about the nuts and the cranberries. I want to show you how the apples can be introduced in here. So we went to the orchard and we had some beautiful apples. These are little tiny Honey Crisp. We had a few different ones, but I want to share with you one of my favorite tricks for how to keep the apples almost all year. So what you do, you get a big bag and you wash them. You always got to wash them. For my microwave applesauce, which is right here, you need to wash them, peel them, core them, cut them fine. So I want to show you this. This part's really important. See how fine that cut is? I mean, that's like a little matchstick.
Yes.
The reason you can see that it's a matchstick is because what I did is I put it in a microwave safe bowl and I microwaved it. You got to put some wax paper on top and it'll probably go about maybe 6 minutes. Like go 6 minutes, stir it, 2 more minutes, keep stirring until you get to a consistency you want. But y'all, it's like applesauce. If you want it thinner, just take store-bought applesauce and fold it in. But you can freeze this. Just label it, pop it out whenever you have company, whenever you want real delicious apples. So when I make it for myself, what I do is I take a scoop of my apples and I just go ahead and put them in here. Now, the recipe said do it at the end, and that's fine, you can. I don't find that it changes the texture at all. And I think it's delicious. So I just go ahead and mix it all the way in so that when I'm taking it to go, I still have the fruits in there. Now, the applesauce here, it's a bit of work because it is such a fine chop to get those little tiny matchsticks. It's worth it. But if you don't necessarily have that kind of time, or maybe you've already made this like I did, and then you had a few leftover apples, what you can do is you can make what I made yesterday, which was crock pot apple butter. Take a look at that.
Ooh, that looks fabulous.
The color is from the spices, which I'll show you. But with apple butter, on some of the recipes, you don't even have to peel it. Like just, wash it, core it, rough chop it. So it can be big chunks in there. But what you do is just put it all in your crock pot. And from there, you get them all in. I used about 10 apples. So about 10 this size. I had 2 bigger apples. And then I had a Granny Smith. I just threw it in. And it actually works if you need to mix them. Add a lemon. And then we add our spices. And all of this is straight into the crock pot. So we've got cloves, which is it's a strong one. So you don't need a whole lot. You've got ground cinnamon. And then I added, personal favorite, whole fresh nutmeg. So that's what it looks like. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's it after it's been grated. So Susie talked last time about this, the microplane grater being one of her favorites. It's also one of mine, but I grate nutmeg with it. So you can just take it and grate it right over. So I grated this into the crock pot. You can also grate it right into your oatmeal as well. The smell from it, I think is the smell of fall.
And whole nutmeg is a whole game changer as compared to ground nutmeg. It has a different flavor, and one of those nutmegs goes a long way and keeps for a long time. And so I feel like when it comes to whole spices, whole nutmeg is the way to go.
Absolutely. I put it on everything. It can go on greens. I put it on acorn and butternut squash, and it's delicious. So with this apple butter, it cooked in the crock pot for about 6 hours on low. And again, you don't have to do anything. There's no babysitting. If you want it to be thicker, you can take the lid off and let it keep cooking. I did that for about 2 hours and it got a little thicker. But so this is kind of the consistency here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I wouldn't say it's as thick as maybe a store-bought apple butter, but it's got more thickness than a true applesauce. So either way, you don't need a lot of it to flavor the oats. So again, I'm gonna make these like I'm heading out, so I'm gonna have everything already in it. So I'm just gonna do a little dollop, really, of each. The nice thing about this particular apple butter, and what I really liked, is it doesn't have necessarily white cane sugar. It has maple syrup, and I believe there's only 4 tablespoons spread amongst about 10 to 12 apples. So when you look at the comparison, you know, it's really minimal in terms of added ingredients, trying to use the flavor of the apples and the great spices. So again, this is what it's looking like before it's going in the fridge. The fridge is really where the time is going to be in terms of cook. You're probably going to need it. I like for it to be at least overnight. You know, any less than that may not be enough. The thing I forgot to tell you was to make sure when you get the oats, you're looking for old fashioned. I have used quick cook before, and it's good. What does not typically work is steel cut oats. I think they get a lot of, they get a lot of good PR. But when you're doing it in this, I just think they're a little bit too chewy and too hard for this. So look for the old fashioned.
That's a good tip. Steel cut is good if you're cooking them, but they don't soften up enough in the liquid.
Absolutely. So that's all it is, right? You can do that. It's taken us about 15 minutes. It's ready to go. Tomorrow, you pull it out. If you want it just as is, you can eat it cold. Sometimes I'll pop it in the microwave for, 30, 40 seconds just to take the chill off. And you can eat it that way as well.
Perfect, Nicole. That was a fast breakfast.
It was. I want to show you what it looks like after about 24 hours. I'm pulling out my napkin because it's, we got to celebrate fall. And I've got my fancy bowl because I wanted to show you what you could do if you were having company over. Make it look pretty, because what you make it in is what you're typically going to serve it in. So just having a mason jar, a pretty one, with a fun napkin that has to do with the holiday you're, about to celebrate can be really helpful. So this one here is what it looks like. I don't know if you can you see that, Valerie?
You can see that. You can see the chia and the flax in there too. See how they kind of thicken everything up.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab a spoon and just kind of show you. Let's see. So this has again been about 24 hours. So you see it does get a lot thicker. It looks a lot more like traditional oats, like what you would see if you were eating oatmeal. Maybe this one is a hair thicker than maybe mine would be. So in that case, what you can do is just add some liquid if you need to add a little more milk. Again, the apples or the applesauce. If you were serving it, again, for company, have you some walnuts. If you make homemade granola, perfect thing to put over it.
That sounds great.
About 20 minutes. You can do the prep work to have some really great breakfast ready to go during the week.
Thank you, Nicole. That's a great high protein, high fiber breakfast. A great way to incorporate both protein and fruit. And we can open it up to some questions if you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we have a question from Caitlin. What are your thoughts on the store-bought versions of overnight oats, which we see popping up these days?
I think it's probably individualized in terms of what you like, what your time is. For me, I feel like knowing what you're putting in it makes a big difference, because you don't have to add necessarily the sugar, the maple syrup. You can keep it simple, especially by doing your own apple butter, your own apples. You can really tailor it to what you're after. What do you think, Valerie? What's
I
your take?
agree with you. I also think from a money standpoint, I've seen some of those store-bought ones. They're like $2 a serving, and you could make a whole family's worth of overnight oats with really wholesome ingredients for almost that much or less. So I think that if there's anything that you want to make at home, this is a great breakfast to make at home and save that money for something else, that gives you more bang for your buck.
And that's a great point that I forgot to mention about the apples. Because when they're in season and you get them at the orchard, now you are buying it in bulk, but if you start to divide out the pound for cost, you're going to spend less when you buy it in bulk. That's the catch though. You're going to have all those apples and you got to think about how am I going to use them, right? So that's where I really like the idea of taking the apples, getting them when it's cheaper, when they're in season, and make those apples work for you during the whole year. Freezing them, turning it into apple butter, so you maximize it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And don't be afraid to also, if you're trying to add more fruit flavor, the dried fruits that you added, like cranberries, raisins, they can get hydrated in it if you put them in ahead, or you can put them on top for a little chew too. So you have fruit all kinds of ways.
And in the summertime, I've seen this a lot. I don't know if y'all have seen it. It's called patriotic overnight oats. So they'll take the same principle kind of as this, but they'll layer it a little bit more. And they'll do strawberries and they'll do blueberries for the white is the oats, and then the red and the blue. So red, white, and blue oats.
That is fun. I want to eat at your house. You do all the themes.
Fun with it. This is one of my favorite things to do, is just kind of making it a little bit more fun and a lot approachable, I hope.
Yes, definitely. And also starting your day off with food choices high in protein and fiber really helps to keep you full, get your metabolism going, and start you off on the right foot, which is, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, as they say.
I agree. And if you are struggling though with dinner ideas, we were just talking about doing breakfast for dinner. It's certainly something you could do. Yesterday we had the crock pot applesauce going. And so your house smells like fall. It smells amazing. And it's like, we got to have breakfast for dinner so we can eat this. So it's all very versatile, I think.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing this and bringing us into your kitchen today, Nicole.
It's my pleasure. I enjoyed it. I had fun cooking with y'all.
All right. Great. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.